The managers at Fuyao Glass's American factory visited the factory in China. They saw workers standing at the assembly line all morning without saying a word, working almost non-stop. They asked a female worker, "Don't you feel tired from constantly working with your hands every day?" "Yes, I do feel tired, but there's nothing I can do about it. My older child is 11, and the younger one is 8. I don't have time to spend with them because of all the overtime." According to employees here, they have to work 12 hours a day and can only take 1 or 2 days off per month, or no rest at all. In one corner of the factory, two workers were picking through a pile of broken glass. They only wore regular gloves with no other protective gear. This shocked the Americans. This scene is from the documentary American Factory. In 2020, the documentary American Factory won the Oscar for Best Documentary Feature. It's based on the American factory belonging to Fuyao Glass. The film was produced by Netflix, with investment from former U.S. President Barack Obama and his wife. The film highlights the cultural, value, and work ethic conflicts between the Chinese company and American workers. Due to the strict management and intense labor practices shown in the documentary, American workers labeled Fuyao Glass as a sweatshop. On July 26, 2024, Fuyao Glass's American factory was raided by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. Media reports indicated that the investigation focused on financial crimes and labor exploitation. The factory in Ohio was searched, along with 27 other locations. Fuyao Glass released a statement on the afternoon of the 28th, stating that Fuya America was not the target of the investigation. They are cooperating with the investigation into a third-party labor service company. The factory's production and delivery are unaffected, and operations remain normal. According to China's Sina Finance, there are rumors that Fuyao Glass used a human resources company to hire workers, including some illegal immigrants, which attracted the attention of U.S. authorities. Local American media reported that the investigation focuses on financial crimes, money laundering, labor exploitation, and potential human trafficking. U.S. law enforcement is working to identify victims and gather evidence. World Journal reported that this incident could further strain U.S. China relations. There is a concern that Fuyao Glass might face a ban similar to Huawei's. Fuyao Glass is the world's largest automotive glass supplier, with automotive glass making up about 90% of its revenue. It holds over 30% of the global market share and more than 65% of the Chinese market share. In 2013, Fuyao Glass announced plans to build a factory in Ohio with an investment exceeding $700 million US. 3 years later, the world's largest automotive glass factory was completed, hiring 2,000 workers in Moraine, Ohio. The factory was converted from an old abandoned General Motors plant covering an area of 180,000 square meters, with a total site area of 675 acres. According to a 2019 report by Mining Industry, Fuyao chairman Cao De Wang told local U.S. media that Fuyao plans to hire up to 3,000 local employees. For Moraine, a city with just over 6,000 residents, this was a significant attraction. When asked why Fuyao Glass invested in the U.S., Cao De Wang explained.
Why did I go to America to invest? What did I see? Today, I'll tell everyone. The whole of America is working hard to restore its status as a manufacturing powerhouse. Their investment intensity is higher than ours in China. The factory I built in the US is around 180,000 square meters, costing around $40 million. The government subsidies exceeded $40 million. What a great deal. What is expensive there? Labor. Natural gas costs 9 cents per cubic meter, only a fifth of the price in China. Electricity costs 4.5 cents per kilowatt hour, less than half the price in China. Gasoline transportation costs are also half the price in China. Labor is expensive. For example, in China, a worker costs 10,000 yuan. In America, it's 30,000 yuan. In China, making a piece of glass costs $2 in wages. In America, it costs $8. Shipping it to America from China costs $5.50 plus $1.80 in taxes. Shipping and taxes offset the labor cost. Other materials are cheaper in America, and their taxes are lower. For example, if I earn $1 million in China, I only get to keep $420,000 after taxes. In America, I keep $600,000 after taxes.
Cao Dewang said he has 5 manufacturing plants in the U.S., and each one is profitable. However, when Chinese companies set up factories abroad, they face not only the goal of making money, but also the challenges of different cultures, values, attitude towards work, and issues like salary, benefits, and safety regulations. After Fuyao Glass entered the U.S., it created 2,000 jobs locally, but also found itself in a constant state of conflict. Analysts believe that the investigation into Fuyao Glass is a result of its past actions. Considering track record, it's clear that the U.S. law enforcement's investigation into labor exploitation has a specific focus, because Fuyao Glass under Cao Dewang has a history of such issues. When the factory was first established in 2015, the local residents were generally welcoming. After all, the area had high unemployment rates following the economic crisis. The Chinese factory creating 2,000 jobs was a big boost for local employment, but soon significant conflicts arose between the Chinese management, led by Cao Dewang, and the American workers. In the U.S., the standard workday is 8 hours, and workers are neither rushed nor willing to do overtime, resulting in much slower production than in China. So Cao Dewang sent several American executives to train at the Chinese factory. They were shocked to see workers starting the day with a meeting, collectively singing the company song, the Song of Fuyao, and working overtime every evening. Upon returning to the U.S., these executives tried to manage the workers using the Chinese model. The high-intensity work and near-military strictness left the American workers bewildered. Morning meetings with corporate songs and evening overtime seemed pointless to them. This led to strikes, with workers holding signs demanding better treatment, reduced labor intensity, and union involvement. To help American workers adapt to the Chinese factory processes, Cao Dewang sent 300 Chinese employees to set an example. At that time, Fuyao's wages were below the market rate in the U.S., which led to protests from American workers. However, the Chinese workers found the wages acceptable. While American workers refused to work overtime, the Chinese were willing. Cao Dewang was very critical of unions, believing that union supervision would lead to endless demands for higher wages and more benefits, eventually bankrupting the company. He made it clear that if a union entered the factory, he would immediately close it down. Later, Cao realized that over half the votes were needed for a union to enter Fuyao, so he fired the American managers who supported the union and brought in his trusted Chinese managers. He also fired anyone who might vote for the union and promised those who voted against it a wage increase. As a result, the union was kept out of Fuya Glass. The workers had to work long hours in high temperatures without adequate protective measures. Within a month, there were 11 workplace injuries. In early June 2017, the New York Times reported that the U.S. Occupational Safety and Health Administration had fined Fuyao Group $226,000 for safety violations in 2016. Fuyao Group later reached a settlement with the administration, reducing the fine to $100,000, and agreed to make the necessary corrections. George Washington University public health professor and former Assistant Secretary of Labor for OSHA, David Michaels, spoke to Chinese media about the fine, describing it as a significant penalty. He explained that OSHA fines are based on identified hazards and violations. Michaels noted that few companies nowadays receive such high fines from OSHA, indicating a serious safety issue. He expressed shock that a new factory would lack a safety management system. American workers not only complained about safety hazards, but also alleged unequal treatment between Chinese and American employees. They pointed out that American workers were fired for not wearing safety glasses or failing to close smoke doors, while many Chinese employees did not wear safety glasses, protective gear, or safety shoes. The most unbearable aspect for the Americans was that they were promised $30 per hour before joining, but received only 13 in reality, coupled with high labor intensity and poor working conditions. As a result, some American workers banded together to denounce the factory's oppression and exploitation. Many ultimately chose to leave, describing the Chinese management as arrogant and heartless, making it impossible for them to accept such a sweatshop. Many former employees complained online about Fuyao's corporate culture. Their policies change daily, making it impossible to adapt. They claim it's a big family, but treat employees like garbage. Stay away from Fuyao. There's so much internal politics. I got into trouble just asking HR for a shift change. This is the worst place to work. Many Chinese employees don't speak any English, and they fire people for no reason. The corporate culture is terrible. The technicians from China are extremely rude. I've never seen such domineering people. They fired the American management to make way for Chinese managers who give no opportunities to American employees. If you're not Chinese, there's no chance for advancement. I hope this terrible place joins a union soon. My husband had many issues with pay and insurance when he worked there. Half the time, no one answered the phone in HR. There were also communication issues, and promised benefits were never delivered. This company has a lot of room for improvement. Fuyao Glass founder Cao De-wang, once seen as a savior and conscientious entrepreneur, is now viewed as a greedy exploiter. In China, Cao De-wang is not only known as the Glass King, but also a leading philanthropist, with reported charitable donations totaling 26 billion yuan over several decades. A 2021 article by China NetEase News highlighted that most of Cao De-wang's donations were made through the He Foundation, managed by his family, rather than through the Red Cross Society of China or the China Charity Federation. When asked in an interview why he didn't donate through these official organizations, Cao replied, "If the public ones could make their finances transparent, I would donate to them too." Interestingly, Fuyao Glass in China is also controversial for allegedly exploiting employees. Netizens have commented, "You can donate over 20 billion yuan, so can you raise employees' wages?" A former college student who worked at Fuyao Glass's Shanghai factory shared his experience. He said that when he first joined, Fuyao claimed their company culture was about fostering a hardworking spirit. But once inside, he realized that the so-called company culture was just about cutting wages and exploiting workers. The day shift ran from 7 a.m. to 5:30 p.m., and the night shift from 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 a.m. Meal times were deducted, but finishing a shift on time was rare. If you didn't work a full 12 hours, you weren't done. Compared to this, the 996 schedule, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 6 days a week, was a luxury. There was no overtime pay because wages were piece-based, and if you didn't meet the quota, you wouldn't even earn the basic wage. Holidays were non-existent, as long as there were products to ship. Rest days were out of the question. They rotated shifts every 2 weeks, which meant 2 weeks of day shifts followed by 2 weeks of night shifts. When rotating shifts, there should have been a rest day on Sunday, but someone came up with the idea of sharp turn, working Saturday night until Sunday morning, then coming back Sunday night to work until 11 p.m., then starting the regular day shift again on Monday morning. This meant continuous work without any real rest. What was most outrageous was the various deductions from ordinary workers' wages, working 12 hours a day, handling hundreds of glass pieces manually. If just one piece was found defective, there was a 200 yuan deduction, negating the entire day's work. The claim of mechanized production was a lie. Many migrant workers worked tirelessly through the night, their hair turning gray in their 30s. Even the wages they earned had to be shared with intermediaries. Handling large panoramic sunroof glass, each weighing over 20 kilograms, they earned a few thousand yuan a month, but only ended up with 5 to 6,000 yuan in hand. In summer, carrying a piece of glass left them drenched in sweat. Working through the night caused such severe leg swelling that their pants stretched out. Some netizens also pointed out that Fuyao Glass is very good at external publicity, claiming to be a national enterprise and a source of Chinese pride, but in reality it was just an ordinary manufacturing company blown out of proportion. The company recruits a lot of people every year, but also sees many leave quickly because the work pressure at the glass factory is much higher than that at an electronics factory. It is physically demanding, with poor working conditions in the production workshops, noisy and hot, with shifts exceeding 12 hours and frequent overtime without rest. Most people couldn't handle it. Additionally, the company operates like a family business, with serious nepotism. The supervisors are often of low quality and very strict. They enact various fines and penalties. The pay is also low, with a base salary of 3,000 yuan for college graduates. Social insurance funds are minimal, and even with constant overtime, the take-home pay is just over 5,000 yuan, which is lower than that of ordinary workers in the factory. What factory is so heartless?
The factory of Cao De-wang, who is supposedly China's top philanthropist. Last year, I didn't get paid for the work I did.
You got scammed?
Yes, I got scammed. I worked for about 4 months, but only got paid for 1 month. Then he just stopped paying. He even told me, "You can sue me if you want." So I did sue him, and I won. But then his lawyer called me and said, "Even if you won, it doesn't matter. You won't get your money." It really taught me a lesson. I'm telling you, the outcome of labor arbitration depends on the boss. If you're dealing with a foreign company, they might give you some justice. But if it's a Chinese boss, it's all about connections and it doesn't matter. Whether you get your money is a matter of luck. We have to support a family. raise a child, and maybe even take care of our parents. If society doesn't uphold justice, to be blunt, it's like they turn a blind eye. How can you fight against that?
The rich get richer and the poor get poorer.
Exactly. The boss is just insulting you. He tells you to sue him, knowing you won't get the money even if you win. They blatantly say, if you have the guts, go ahead and sue me. You're not on the same level as them.
There are many complaints online about Fuyao Glass's low wages, high labor intensity, and poor benefits. Fuyao Glass has focused on global business development in recent years. According to the 2023 financial report, half of Fuyao Glass's revenue came from domestic sales and the other half from overseas. Its overseas assets accounted for 37.8% of its total assets. In 2023, Fuyao America reported an operating income of approximately 770 million US dollars and a net profit of 68 million US dollars. Fuyao Glass's total revenue for 2023 was 4.58 billion US dollars with a net profit of 779 million US dollars. In 2022, Fuyao Glass invested an additional $650 million into Fuyao America, including $300 million for projects like a coated automotive glass production line and a tempered laminated side window production line. Another $350 million was invested in the Illinois subsidiary of Fuyao America for multiple production lines. In the first quarter of 2024, Fuyao Glass recorded an operating income of 8.8 billion yuan, a year-on-year increase of 25.3%, and a net profit of 1.4 billion yuan, a year-on-year increase of 51.8%. As of the end of the first quarter of 2024, Fuyao Glass had cash equivalents totaling 13.5 billion yuan. On July 26, Fuyao Glass's stock closed at 47.26 per share, down 0.07%. Cao De Wang is a highly controversial entrepreneur. However, in terms of the direction of private enterprise development, his early move to expand into overseas markets allowed him to avoid the Chinese government's crackdown on private enterprises, demonstrating his foresight. But with the rising geopolitical tensions, increased control of overseas businesses by the Chinese government leads to heightened security concerns in other countries. With changes in the international landscape, the future for Chinese companies with overseas operations is becoming increasingly challenging.